Hello and welcome back to my channel. So since I talked to you guys last, I kind of launched a series on my Instagram and TikTok of me showing the process of developing the land for the tiny homes at my parents' house, and I mentioned it on my video here as well, but on TikTok and Instagram people said that they wanted to see the process, and so I figured I could do some short form content there, but I really want to bring long form and like talk through the process with you guys here and let you know how everything's going. Hopefully, like, if anybody else is interested in doing this, I can help you learn a little bit on how this works, or at least my understanding of how it works. This is the first time I've done anything even remotely close to this, and so it's a huge learning experience for me as well. That noise in the background is my son. He's in his room with his dad. So I'm just gonna run you guys through the process of how we've like gotten this started and where we're up to at this point as it stands today. We have not like broken ground on anything yet, so this is all like due diligence, prep work, all that kind of stuff. So to give you guys a little bit of an overarching view of how this is gonna go, so we're currently working to get 2 tiny homes on the property. One will be for us, me, Tyler, my son, our animals, and then one will be for my sister and her 2 dogs. And then how we're kind of structuring it is that's going to be our homes, like our individual homes, and then we're going to form them in an L on the property. So our tiny home will be here, and then we're going to have a shipping container that operates as an office. So it'll predominantly be mine and Tyler's office. We both work from home, and I need somewhere to store all of the First Night Energy, all of the Carwell Mercantile Co. products that we're going to be selling and shipping out of there. I'll have an office in there, Tyler will have his office in there, and we'll probably have some sort of play area for Oz in there so that he can be in there while we're working. And then my sister's tiny home is going to be here, and she's going to have a shipping container as well, that like a converted shipping container that is a gym. So it's going to operate as a gym, and again, it's on her side, but we're going to be able to use that gym as well. So we're going to put like our treadmill in there. We'll probably put up some mirrors. We'll have like yoga mats and free weights and things like that. We're going to have like our own nice little community. And then my parents' house is just up the hill, and so I think that it's going to be so cool and like homestead. I am kind of thinking about getting chickens. I just don't know if I can fully deal with the fact that there's a bobcat in my parents' woods, and so there's no way that the chickens survive, and I just get way too attached to animals. So that is TBD, but we're creating our own little like compound on the property. And yeah, so I'm gonna walk you guys through kind of what we've done thus far and talk you through the steps. We have hit a few bumps in the road already, but we are pushing through them, and we're going to figure this out. To give you guys a little bit of a background on how this process works specifically with the township that my parents are in. So according to their zoning, and I have like called the zoning administrator and I've called the chairman of the planning commission, according to them, there can be 1 additional dwelling on a property in my parents' township, but because we want to put 2, I'm going through the process of filing a variance with them. And so to do that, we have to put together a site plan. We have to then present it to the planning commission, and then they would then approve it, give us the permit, and then we would go and kick off all of the actual development of the land. So we're in the site development part of this process, so we have not presented this to the planning commission yet. So what I have done thus far is, one, I went out to my parents' land and kind of got an idea of the way that I wanted it to be set up, and spoiler alert, I have already changed the way that we are having the site set up just because of things that I've learned along the way, things that I guess I didn't know, and I have not like really dove deep into this. I am using this 100% as a learning experience. So the first thing I did is figured out what process I needed to do as far as like septic and stuff is concerned, because we will be adding a septic, a well, we're going to be pulling electricity to the property. We're not parceling off the land, so that process does look a little bit different because it's not parceling, and like we're not getting our own address. The land is not ours, it's just us developing on the existing land. For the septic specifically, I'll walk you guys through how that process has gone. So we had to get with the health department, because to me, I would find out what size septic I need, hire somebody, they put put it in. Like before this, I didn't know that there was anything else to do with it. But what needs to happen is the health department has to come out and they basically do a land evaluation. They tell you if you even have a space to put a septic, because there's certain requirements as far as soil and water table and things like that. So they do the test, and typically what they would do is they would do the test, you would get your permit, and then they would tell you what size septic you're going to need for the property that you're going to be building there. Because we have to get the planning permission approval, we have to do the test. They tell us that there can be a septic. We get the planning commission's approval, we get the permit, then we find out how big of a septic we need, and then we go through the process of getting that installed. We technically will have to have them come out multiple times to do this, and it costs every time. What they're doing right now is I had to submit what's called a land evaluation form, and basically I like send them what our estimated site plan looks like. They come out and they dig where we're assuming the septic is going to be. They test the soil, and they're looking for like the type of soil that it is, but also like the water table and things like that that are in it. And this is all very technical, and I don't know exactly how this, like what these terms all mean, but they basically send it out, and then they send us you a report back and tell you if the septic can be there. Spoiler alert, ours got denied based on the area that I picked. Now I want to tell you guys, I randomly picked this spot. I was like, oh, the tiny homes will go here. I want to run the septic lines as short a distance as possible. So I'll put the tiny homes here. We'll have the septic test done here. And then after the fact, I was like, oh my gosh, if we do that, I'm gonna have to run the electricity, which I'll get to the electricity portion of this. I'm gonna have to run the electricity really far, like further than I need to. So I moved where the tiny homes would be, but the septic could stay because, again, I then found out that like your septic needs to be at least 100 feet from your well. Your properties do need to be a certain distance away from your septic. So there's certain things that I hadn't taken into consideration when I picked the spot, but the spot was still okay based on the new structure of where I wanted things to be set up. We had them come and do the test, and then yesterday I get this report emailed to me, and it says it's not suitable for an on-site septic system. Based on the location of the soil borings, this area of the property is not suitable for an on-site septic system. District Health Department number 10 requires a minimum of 12 inches of dry usable soils in order to deem a property suitable, and those conditions were not met in the area of this evaluation. And it looks like they took 2 samples, and the first one, there's a seasonal high water table of 6 inches below grade, which does not meet the sanitary code requirements. And then in the second one, clay loam, which is unsuitable for septic under any circumstance. So I get this report back and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do now? Because there are houses that are directly in front of this property. So that tells me there has to be somewhere to put septic somewhere on this land, right? I have now called the health department back, and there's gonna be a new type of testing done where basically we have like an excavator come out. They meet the excavator and they dig a bunch of different places on the land. And basically they'll look and be like, okay, this looks like maybe it's a better spot. Let's dig here and test this. Let's dig here and test this. They'll test a bunch of different areas, and then they'll come back and basically tell me if it's even viable for a septic system, which is like obviously huge. Can't have these properties there without it. So we're gonna take that next step to see what our options are. But to do that, I have to have Miss Dig come out and make sure that we can do the digging there. I have to rent an excavator. My dad's gonna be the one to dig, and then we have to coordinate a time with the health department to come out and run these tests. So that's another thing, like we're paying for another test to be done. So we're already $230 in the hole. We're gonna be another $140 for this application, plus whatever it is to rent the excavator. How fun. So we have that. That's on my list of things to do now that I got this report back yesterday. Now let's move on to electricity. So there is a current home on the land, my parents' home. So their electric company, I just called them and I was like, hey, this is what we're looking to do. I have learned that you just call the number and you're like, this is my plan. You tell me what I need to do to make sure that you have the information, and like, how can we set this up? So I call and they get me with a project coordinator, and I basically tell the project coordinator what our plan is, have him come out. He does like a little site visit. He looks at the transformer, how much electricity is currently being used at the house, and then where we need to pull it to. So he has told me that the transformer is basically tapped out, so we will likely have to upgrade said transformer. And then we have 2 options. We can pull the electricity underground, or we can go above ground to where we're gonna be putting it, and then there'll be another pole put in and it'll go underground to a pedestal, because the tiny homes that we have basically RV hookups. And so it'll go to a pedestal that will then split between the 2 tiny homes and then the 2 shipping containers that we're gonna have on the property. The electricity company basically has a design team come out, they figure out what the structure needs to be. So they'll come out and do a design, send us a quote, and then we'll take that design to the planning commission. So while I'm figuring out all of these things, I'm also getting with the tiny home company because I want to get an estimate. We're gonna figure out financing as far as like, can we do financing with construction? Can we do financing just for the tiny home? So we're getting with them, getting quotes, putting together what we want our floor plans to look like. So we are looking at putting Nordic and Spruce tiny homes on our property, the homesteader models specifically. They are Scandinavian style. I did choose them specifically. They're gonna function great, but the aesthetic of them is a huge factor in this. One, I film content pretty much every day for my job, but also if we're gonna short-term rent them eventually, aesthetic is gonna be something that I'm factoring in. And so they are beautiful, and they have smaller models, but they launched their homesteader, which is their biggest model thus far. And so we put together how we want these things to be. We made a few adjustments, I guess you could say. We're adding like a space for a small dishwasher in both of the units. Mine and Tyler specifically, we're extending by a foot in the bedroom so we can fit a king bed versus a queen bed, because I need a king bed. It's just a non-negotiable for me at this point, and I'm willing to pay a little extra to make sure it's in there. So we worked with them and we put together the floor plans for that, and they are really super helpful, honestly. So they like send us that we need like a 50 amp hookup. They have like photos of where all the hookups are on them. So they've been super helpful and super communicative, and it's really, really nice. And one of the best things about them is they send you like financing options that they know have either financed for people before, or just like that you can reach out to specifically, because financing on a tiny home as like this type of a tiny home is difficult because it's on a trailer. So it's a movable structure and it's not technically a home. It's like more like an RV, and every lender that I've spoken to thus far, they don't have anything to like cover what we were looking for. And so they send you this list of potential lenders, I guess, on this type of structure. And so we need to start reaching out to them. But currently, as it stands, we are waiting to hear back from the electricians, and we're going to have to now have another soil test done for the septic. We are trying to move this process as much as possible. I'll give you guys a little, I don't know, announcement, I guess. We are also breaking our lease early here to move into my parents' house for the time being, because once we do get the loan for the tiny home, and we're hoping to combine it with construction, we will have that loan to be paying on while that stuff is happening, and then we don't want that plus our rent. That's just a lot of things for us to have at once. And then I'm going to be back and forth and at the site so often that it just makes sense for us to be there. So in the next month we are going to be completely downsizing our life and moving out of here. So I am going to be filming downsize my life videos, because we have moved and accumulated so much stuff, which is one of my biggest goals with moving into this tiny home, forcing us to downsize. And I'm actually really, really excited about the fact that we have to get rid of a bunch of stuff. So we're going to be selling tons of things and donating what we can't sell. And yeah, so I'm just really excited about all of that. But that is the plans for the tiny home as of right now. That's kind of where we're at. We have had a little bit of a bump in the road, but I am not letting it hold me back. I just feel like this is the right move for us. I feel like this is going to be so much better for us as a family, based on me having help with Oz when Tyler is traveling. I think that this is going to be such a cool experience. I'm going to learn so much in the land development process of this, but I'm going to bring you guys along for as much as I possibly can. But I wanted to get this update on here because I know that people had kind of been asking for it, and it's hard to like tell you the full story on the short form content. But if you want to see anything specific, let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye guys.